I know the last week has really opened the eyes of a lot of you. There are those that are obviously out there that have been speaking about these issues for a very long time. But I think what makes this different with regards to the assassination of Brother Charlie Kirk is just how many normies, for lack of better terms, are starting to see what's going on. They're paying attention a little more. It's undeniable. And on various forms of social media or even in their personal lives, they have seen people that they know or thought they knew celebrate and justify the assassination. A lot of lies floating out there, things being taken completely out of context. And ultimately, it boils down to because they believed that he said things that they didn't agree with, they believe his murder to be justified. But what normies are seeing, and what many of you, maybe even my viewers, are seeing, is how deep this stuff lies. Now, I'm not speaking to those that already knew, but from all of what we have looked at, the institutions that these people that are celebrating represent, they're in your government, they're in your education, they're in all of your entertainment, and they are in various roles. This is the hive mind. This is the authorized line of thinking that they feel so confident that they can say out there and publicly, and that there's going to be no consequence. Now, we've seen people lose their gigs over this, but you see just how deep that this is, and that's the important thing to note. I've said this in multiple videos as of recently, and I've said this for the better part of 15 years. Politics are on the downstream of culture. The authoritarian left, and I repeat myself often when I say that, they understood that, again, culture, or rather politics, are on the downstream of culture. Great Andrew Breitbart understood that. But leftists understood this many decades, which is why their slow but sure infiltration was so successful. They knew that they didn't need the political realm. That will correct itself, at least according to them, as long as they could capture everything else. And so while people that are to the right of Bernie Sanders, and the reason why I keep using that rhetoric is because this isn't something that's limited to people that deem themselves as Republicans or conservatives. Oftentimes people believe that with this battle of ideas, and therefore they can fight that at the political level and the political level alone. And that's why they have caught so many losses over the years. This is not something that is going to be corrected by simply acknowledging that, wow, these people are in these institutions. No, now we've long understood that. Maybe some of you now understand that. What are you going to do? Now, some of you may disagree with me, but I say this as somebody that has floated around, especially like in music, and I understand how people started to view me differently when I was even in Fire from the Gods, and I was writing songs like The Capitalist and such, and how much that deviated from basically everybody that was around me, and how they started to feel some kind of way when I started to show that in my music. And there's other people with obviously very, very familiar stories. You see, and this is my criticism of, again, whether it be libertarians, conservatives, and so forth. This isn't a new criticism. This is my criticism for a very long time. You're often culturally inept. And I say that not as an insult. I just want you to get your shit together. You ignore it, or often even think of it as something that is childish, right? As the political realm is the only way to fight this thing that you are up against. And you've been wrong. These are evil people that know influence. They understand influence. So people, if you want a solution, you have to start getting involved culturally. The politics will end up correcting itself, but you got to get involved culturally. Otherwise, any of the gripes that you have are fruitless, I guess, or will be. But I will say this. When I say this, I don't mean that, well, you got to fight to take it back. Like, try to take back the colleges, try to take back entertainment. And really what you end up doing is legitimizing the institutions that exist already right now that they've already captured. And I don't really think from a foundational level, infrastructure does not really lend itself towards your ideals and your ideological approach anyway. My solution, or what I've advocated as a solution, is to completely dismantle those institutions by delegitimizing them and then thus building your own. People that want some sort of decency, people that want a sense of, it's not just strictly political ideology, but people that want a sense of decency, right? You want to live in a world where when folks are murdered unjustifiably, which all murder is unjustified, but you get what I'm saying. When something like that happens, you want to live in a world, a social order where people look at that and they say that is wrong. There's no justification, nothing to dispute. It's just incorrect. It's wrong. That's only going to come by way of building things from scratch, building things that are new, building things that with that as from an ethics point, from a like these are your views, these are your like again ideological. I know oftentimes that is seen as a negative thing, but I'm saying that from a foundational standpoint, something that the people that have created this understood and have prioritized from the very get-go, not like our education system. And thus looking at the Hollywoods, looking at the entertainment elites, looking at the institutions and the colleges and the public education system, looking at those and saying, look, you're not the legitimate source of information. Part of the reason why this has been so long, that this course correction takes so long, is because people think a solution is looking back to those institutions like Hollywood and thinking that you're going to get it back. This is why people love defects so much, right? And they love that. When I say defects, I mean someone that was like a leftist, right? Or like among them in Hollywood or something like that. You have like this window of time where they're celebrated when they finally said something that made sense, and then they're celebrated for like 3 months. And then after that, they're done with you. Where are the rest of the guys that have come from that side, or maybe within these vessels, and they've said something that I agreed with? Meanwhile, you have people that are creating or trying to build these more alternative approaches where folks look at that folks that are on their side look at them as like, you're not the legitimate ones. It's cool. You're doing your thing, right? Total Twins, shout out, doing their thing, which should be the biggest thing among people that are not, that are raising children, that are not leftists. But they look to that like it's just there. It's independent. It's cool that they're doing that alternative. But we really need to be looking at the big dogs, right? And the entertainment elites and what they're doing, the Disneys and the Nickelodeons and all those guys. It runs very deep. And this is why simply pointing it out isn't good enough. You see it now. Many of you were kind of in la-la land, their head in the sand, but you see just how bad that things are. Producers and people that are not even front facing, that are part of the creative elements of all of this, are mocking a man that was murdered in front of his kids and his wife. And that's not a social order that I want to be part of. These people have told you they don't look, man, I have zero interest to live with you, among you peacefully. So what is the solution now? It's to get out there, understand, recognize it, approach it with honesty, that these people are godless. They want nothing to do with you. If anything, they want to eliminate you, and they will justify it. This is why they call you the things that they call you, because they feel that it gives them justification for whatever bad things that happens to you. Okay, you've now acknowledged that. Separate yourself from it and start building things. That's the solution. Not thinking that they're going to change, expecting them to change, thinking that you can like infiltrate like they did, man. That's going to take freaking several decades, because that's how long it took them. And like I said, when you have this more individualistic, more liberty-minded approach, how those systems have been set up run contrary to that. So you can't even do that. You can't successfully infiltrate. You got to create from scratch. And you have to establish that foundation from the get-go. That's the only solution to this. It's not a political one. It's not a political one. It's something I've been saying for a very long time. Why I know people get upset with how I feel about the creative, not the creative process, the political process, and why I'm always saying, like, look, guys, in all honesty, if you want your geographical area to change, federal politics is probably the last thing that you should be prioritizing. I'm not saying that it's irrelevant. I'm not saying that it's useless. I'm saying that it's probably more conducive for you to go in that voter booth and joke around, dick around, than entering in, Republican or Democrat, whoever's run for president or even Senate, and that alone, thinking that or expecting that that is going to correct this thing. No, there's too much work to be done. You see, even when you have the presidency, even when you have the Congress, you see how slow they are to try to get things done. People are looking at how incompetent right now the FBI is anyway, which you should have already understood that. It's not going to come from them. They are the lagging indicator at best. At best. So I'm wanting people to get out of that line of thinking and understand what game that they're playing, man. What the rules that have already been established, they've already been levied upon you. And it is going to be uncomfortable when you have to try to start. And I say this with me as well. Well, I'm having to always pay attention to, okay, who made this thing? Are these folks that hate me? And I'm always having to take that stuff into consideration with really everything that I do. And it's not easy, obviously, to do that. And I'm not saying it's going to be with 100% certainty. Because in some cases, it's almost impossible. But you got to start somewhere. And this is why creators, entrepreneurs, educators, and I'm using that in like the literal sense, not whatever the hell the education system that America has. They don't educate anybody. They indoctrinate very successfully. But I'm saying there has to be when I say coordinated effort, I'm not saying in the collectivist way. I'm saying that you have now acknowledged the playing field here, and you take that information and you build something that can be more of a corrective force, culturally, instead of anticipating that there's going to be some, I don't know, another Elon Musk that's going to come around and from every single institution buy it out and now have something that's more in line with what you think. It's not going to happen. This is a harsh reality. Many of you have had to face that your family members, that many of your parents, not necessarily just your parents, but that is true in some cases, friends, family, people that you looked up to, people that you thought had their head on their shoulders, and you see just how antithetical some of the things they advocate are. I do not, nor I know many of you watching this, want to live in a world, in a social order where people justify murder of innocent people, regardless of how they think politically. That's not a place that where folks can't suspend that. They're so entrenched in this nonsense that they can't possibly say that is wrong. And even when they do often say it's wrong, it has to come up with, like you're seeing this from a lot of the like more prominent leftists, it has to come with this qualifier. I didn't like him, but like why do we have to say that? Why do you have to preface it with that? Why can't it just not simply be, hey, murdering people because they think differently from you and they just want to speak to folks is wrong. Point blank, period. It is wrong. It is incorrect. There's no justification for it. I want solutions. And I'm not saying like I got all the answers. It's actually the opposite. It's that I understand that people in all those various arenas that they float around in, subcultures that they're involved in, they may have the answers. What I'm wanting them to do is build, and what I'm wanting the others that may not be builders, because I'm not a builder in every arena. Obviously, yeah, I make my music, I do my comic book stuff, but like, I don't know every single subculture, but I am willing to support those that are trying to detach themselves from the status quo, because that is the only way that, at least in our lifetimes, we're going to see some sort of course correction. It has to happen. It's not an option. It is not going to come from your government. I'm just giving it to you straight. And I'm not telling you not to support those guys that are out there running for office. I'm saying that if those guys are going to end up being effective, it's going to be the lagging indicator. They're on the downstream at best. And that's if you believe that there's going to be a solution, that there is going to be one.